Have you noticed that much of what we see in the sales world today is antisocial? Pitch slaps, false compliments, inauthenticity, and sometimes outright disinformation? Welcome to the All Selling is Social podcast, where we look at ways that we can be social in our selling efforts, no matter how we're reaching out. Each week, we talk to top sales leaders and trainers to learn what's working for them, how we can learn to talk with people, not talk at them. Join your host, Bill McCormick, and let's develop a sales game that feels as good as it works. Let's get social.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Selling is Social podcast. We are going to have so much fun today. My guest, wait till you hear about her. So from milking cows to corporate America to entrepreneur. That's my friend Jen Halpern. She's the founder of Soft Sell Coaching, and she teaches sales leaders and sales professionals in tech and SaaS and manufacturing, companies from 10 million to 900 million. She teaches them how to prove their sales skills, achieve sales targets. This includes discovery, qualifying, overcoming objections, negotiating, and closing deals. Coaching recorded calls and coaching one-to-one skill improvements are two of her most favorite things. Yeah. So two things that set Jen apart are her journey, right? She has come from being an account executive to VP of sales. She's had epic fails, and we're going to talk about maybe one or two of those, mistakes and successes, and we're going to hear those also. Experience leads to wisdom, she says, which leads to confidence, which I totally agree with. Jen weaves consistent emphasis on soft skills in her sales coaching and sales training, like how to be an all-star listener. If you want to sell more, she says, you've got to listen more and allow people to feel heard. Please welcome to the All Selling is Social podcast, Jen Halpern, founder of Soft Sell Coaching. Jen, so great to have you here. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you, Bill. I'm pumped. I'm excited. Thank you.
Yeah. We're going to have a great time. So tell us a little bit about your journey, dairy farm to entrepreneur.
Yes. So when I was young and naive, I moved overseas to the Middle East, and I lived in a farming community known as a kibbutz, which at that time was a self-contrived community, an agricultural community, and I got to be a dairy farmer, and I milked cows for 5 years. I'll tell you one thing, milking cows taught me some powerful sales leadership lessons learned. And I'll share this super tight lesson, and that is this. When we learned, each cow had a name, and when we called the cows by name, and when we would make nice on them, pet them, engage with them like we do our pets, there were two things that happened. One, they yielded higher milk production. And number two, they were healthier longer. So connect those dots to how to develop your team in a sales function, a sales organization. Yeah.
Yeah. And even your clients too, right? You treat
100%.
them the right way. They're gonna. That's amazing. And so from there, you ended up in corporate America.
It was a 180. Yes. From milking cows on a dairy farm to corporate America, at that time in corporate America, I was in SaaS specifically, from small, medium, as well as enterprise software companies, 21 years, and had 18 bosses, and that is a literal number. So imagine do the math, and how many learning moments of magic, moments that matter from 18 different bosses that help lead me to now I'm a sales coach and a sales trainer.
So in those 18 years, you were in sales.
Yes.
So what was the entry into sales? Did you always feel called to sales? Did you accidentally end up selling? How did that happen?
Oh, such a fun question. I'm a third generation natural seller, solver, advisor, trusted partner. So my mom was very successful in San Antonio, Texas, working for a Hispanic Hispanic television station in advertising. She's bilingual, and she was their top seller for more years than not. And her father, my grandfather, was an excellent seller in the printed advertising for newspapers. For those of us that remember
what are those?
Exactly. Oh, don't get me started. So I think it's in the DNA to serve. I consider myself a servant leader to serve. And in order to serve, I must understand and then
Mhm.
solve.
So would you say is that the biggest lesson you learned from your grandfather and your mom, or are there other lessons in sales and service that you learned from them specifically?
Ooh, what I learned two things from them: that the way you show up, you may engender trust by never meeting a stranger, right? And that's by being an authentic, curious human. So it's asking questions and then listening. What's in it for the person in front of me? It's not about me, it's about you or them or your customer, client, prospect.
Okay, so that's one. What was the second thing? You said there were
Oh,
two things.
there's actually several. And this is um, these I was moving into my epic fails.
Okay.
Is that fair?
That's
Is
fair.
this a
Yeah,
good
let's
moment?
talk. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. And I remember talking to my mom about one of these in particular. There are so many fails, but the ones that stand out because of the ripple effect of lessons are: number one, I was highly emotional when I was a young seller and then newly promoted into sales management. And I was coached to not be emotional. So I then went to the opposite end of the pendulum and was super stoic and ultimately silent. So it took me a few years to figure out, where am I clear? Where am I grounded? Who do I want to be as a leader? Well, part of that is learning, how do my teams and my clients that I serve want to be led? Not making assumptions, but asking them, what does a good leadership look like? Tell me about your best leaders. Why? What were their characteristics? Tell me about your worst leaders. Um, which taught me the lesson about hiring. For almost a decade, Bill, I would hire, when I was in corporate America, I hired salespeople that were mini me's. Oh, we clicked. It was so great, mini me's. And what I learned through some painful hires is to find the opposite so that we complement each other, like a yin and yang scenario, which brings different and expansive perspective, new ideas, just all the things. That was a huge fail for many years. Another fail is this was being silent. I was in a room with sales leadership, and our senior VP of sales um, called one of my colleagues, asked him a question, didn't like the answer, and called one of my colleagues. I said, I didn't know that you were a dumb mother flicker, but that's not the word he said.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is in front of all six of the sales leaders, and I was stunned into silence and
Mhm.
didn't say a word. And then I went to HR, and then my job was removed. So I learned about, what does it mean to speak up, how to speak up, when to speak up, where is HR, uh, and really deeply, truly understand the culture in which you work and be thoughtful in your decisions and the actions that you take.
Man, wow. Yeah, that's it's so powerful, especially learning to walk that, with emotion, like walking that,
Mm,
I want to say tightrope, but it's really the middle. It's being authentically who you are and not being a robot, but also not being swayed by every blow of the wind, so to speak, and I think
yes.
that really goes back to knowing who you are inside and getting that
Mm,
right. And when you have that right, that kind of becomes the true north. And you're able to say, yeah, I'm emotional because this upsets me.
yeah.
Or no, that doesn't affect me, so I don't have to be. So that's great. So what about some wins? What are some successes you've seen? 21 years in sales, aside from being a coach, what are some of the wins you've seen, some of the successes?
Mm. So coaching has always been very important to me, both as I was coming up and as I led teams in corporate America, and for the sales coaching that I do today. When you truly lean into developing your people and investing yourself in them, such as having consistent weekly coaching conversations, in addition to the deal or the account strategy, but to the will and the skill of the seller, to really understand what's important to each of your salespeople, because it can change monthly, quarterly, annually, because our lives change. We can start out living in a studio apartment, then you make enough money to get a one bedroom, then you get engaged, then you want to buy a house, then you want to have a baby. It's incumbent on leaders to understand what drives each of the persons that we're serving. In this case, my sellers, my sales teams. And when that happens, when you build and engender trust, your sales teams perform better and they stay longer, and magic happens. You see people's confidence increase. You see them get close to their sales targets quota. Then you see them achieve their sales targets and quota. And then sometimes you even see them exceed your sales targets. And it's two things. It's celebrating the wins of all shapes and sizes, and it is understanding the value of asking and getting your team to self-identify how to improve versus telling, do this, say this. And you can do all of this while being direct, firm, and kind.
Yeah, I remember some of the sales teams that I was a part of, and I was never a successful seller coming up, which maybe have caused some people now to click off and not listen anymore, and that's okay. But we're all on a journey, and
Right.
I remember what was taught then was copy, duplicate, replicate what works for this guy because he's at the top of the leaderboard.
That's right.
And the problem was is I wasn't that guy, and I couldn't act like that guy. And I didn't want to act like that guy because what I knew was he was at the top of the leaderboard because what he was doing wasn't quite above board. It
Mm,
maybe wasn't illegal, but it definitely wasn't ethical.
sketchy.
And I wasn't gonna do that. And
Yeah.
so I think what you're saying is so important because it's dealing with each person as an individual. So my wife and I have 5 kids, and they're all grown adults. And we don't parent them all the same way. We don't treat them, we don't relate to them all the same way because they're all individuals. They all have
Yes.
different strengths and weaknesses and different personalities. And I think for sales leaders to understand that looking at your sales team as your kids or your family and
Mm.
understand that they're each going to act and they're going to respond in different ways is so key to getting the most out of them, kind of like when you're milking a cow.
That's exactly right. Way to bring it
Yeah.
full circle.
I try to do that. So talk a little bit about soft sell coaching. So where did that name come from, and what's the focus of that?
Mm. The origination is when I left corporate America 5 years ago. I'm now in year 5 as a solopreneur entrepreneur.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very proud of that. It is not for the faint of heart. You must have strong intestinal fortitude.
Amen, sister.
Soft sell coaching. Soft sell made sense because my corporate background is all in software, SaaS, software as a service. But that
Hmm.
was actually that someone else brought that to my attention. That didn't occur to me at the time. For me, it's soft skills lead to hard dollars. So
Hmm.
everything I coach and train in the sales arena includes the power of becoming an all-star listener and then how to ask meaningful questions. I think those two things or concepts are foundational, regardless of if I'm coaching a VP of sales or a sales director on how to engender trust and better lead their team, or if I'm doing sales training on how to become an all-star listener. Um, so that is where the name came from, soft sell coaching. And I think coaching is fundamental.
It definitely is. So tell me in the teams or the people that you're working with now, what are one or two of the biggest challenges you're seeing right now, like in this kind of time frame that we're in right now? What are some of the challenges you're seeing that salespeople are having?
So there's two things that come to mind. The first one, and I saw this when I was in corporate 21 years ago. This is a constant, and it's a head scratcher to me. It's when we promote our top producing sellers into sales management position. And I believe often that happens without really describing, articulating all the downsides and the pains that go with this kind of a promotional move with minimal to no infrastructure and support.
Hmm.
So what typically happens is in 12 to 18 months, that newly promoted sales manager is either exited, demoted, or leaves on their own because they fail. I see it client after client after client.
And do you think that, and I'm going to take a guess here,
Yeah.
that maybe that happens because that top producer then wants to make everyone like him because he was so successful?
Mm. The second thing is I still see do this because it's what I do. Say this because it's what I say. Say it the way I say it because it works. And to your point, you cannot step into another human skin because it's inauthentic. And your prospects and customers will smell your bullshit, frankly.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
uh, it's coaching the confidence of how to be you. We may all have an agreed upon aligned value proposition that we want to articulate at the right time,
Hmm.
which leads to one more thing I see is premature pitching and commission breathing. And so
Oh, come on. That
that's
still happens.
all the time because we get excited. Oh my God, they answered the phone or they agreed to have my meeting and we launch into that as opposed to making it about the person in front of you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I love your emphasis on curiosity because that's my thing too. Is let's stop being judgmental and stop being curious. And people say, well, I'm not judgmental, but you are. You're judging me thinking that I need your product or service and you really don't even know me. That's judging to
yeah,
me. So come in with some curiosity. Ask me some questions.
that's
Um,
right.
find out more about me so that you can then pitch me pitches it, but you can then present what you think I need with some more information. And you only do that with curiosity. And
That's
and
right.
so this may be leading the question a little bit, but so that's the challenge is what do you see that's working right now?
Mm. So this is what I do. This is what I've learned from my business coach, and then I have adapted it to Jen Skin.
Mhm.
Is I'm very comfortable and fond of asking for permission.
Mm.
Bill, we just stepped into this meeting, whether it's on Zoom or face to face. Permission to ask you some questions so I can better understand what's happening. Permission to understand what gets to happen in this conversation so that you, Bill, walk away thinking, yes, good use of time with Jen. And thirdly, I often will ask, Bill, may I have your permission to interrupt you for clarity? And sometimes it's for clarity, and sometimes it's because you've been talking for 6 minutes now, and I'm visiting other planets, and we're way off track. So it's also a way to align us again to continue moving forward. And that's asking, asking.
I love that. And that's something I teach when I'm training people like on LinkedIn rather than just send the PDF. Ask them if they'd like it and get them to agree to it. But I never thought of it in terms of a meeting and whether in person or on Zoom. That's a really, really powerful thing because it begins the collaboration right away.
That's
And
right.
I think you'd probably agree with me that so oftentimes in sales it's set up as a competition. Like I've got to win the deal, right? Which means I have to overcome objections, which means
Mm,
it's almost like that puts me in competition with my prospect. But we need to be collaborators. We have to work together to see if we can create the outcome they're looking for.
oh,
And
I love it.
that's huge. Okay, so that's one. What else? So in terms of any individual salespeople that you've worked with recently, what do you see that somebody's doing that you were like, wow, that's amazing. That's great.
Oh, two things. So first, I love it when you said of a sense of almost competing with our own prospect or client to win the deal. And I challenge you and all of your audience members that it's not win the deal, it's earn the trust. That's a
Amen.
complete mind shift. I love that. Amen. I
Yeah.
would say the stellar sellers that I see that are the ones that either get close to quota consistently and or achieve quota are the ones that understand and have mastered the technique of constant curiosity, even when there's a time and place for pitching. And that means in a discovery or qualification setting, asking a minimum of 13 questions. And that can be achieved in the first 15 minutes. So imagine if you're in a 1 hour discovery conversation, connection, or intro call, whatever you think, um, walking out knowing you've asked 26 questions and how much information you now ideally have a very thorough and complete understanding of where you are right now with this, where this individual is with your product, with your service, all the things. That's powerful and that's confidence.
Mm, that's amazing. So are there do you have set questions or it's just figuring out 13 questions?
Oh, I
Six.
definitely, I have my set. And also, so there's three things that I step into with any selling conversation, and that is stepping into my confidence, stepping into the power of shifting, because in my mind, the way I'm planning this podcast is going to go is rarely the way it will go. So we shift, we adapt,
Yeah.
right? And then the third thing is, what are my ideal goals and desired outcomes of this conversation? And that's confidence, shift, and goals. I forgot what your question was. There you go, Bill.
Well, it's just having the question so you frame your
Oh,
question on
that's
those
it. Thank you.
goals. Yeah, that's cool. It's all
Um,
good.
I love that. So that is my mindset is confidence, shift, and goal. And then I like to start with, Bill, tell me your journey. How did you, how did your butt get to sitting in this seat right now? I want to hear all the things. Be detailed, be specific. And that's often what do you call it? A launching point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good foundation to start with. So are you doing almost all of your work on Zoom and via video or phone, or are you doing some in-person stuff also?
It is both and. It is both and. So right now I have six clients. Three are remote, all in Zoom, and three are either local or close enough that I go there. And even the ones that are virtual, part of the ideal contract will involve me going out on site to do some in-person sales training or sales coaching.
Mm. Yeah, and there's such a difference, right? I
How
think
how about you? Yeah.
so almost all of my stuff is virtual.
Mm-hmm.
And we were saying in the green room, I had a meeting yesterday in person, and it was different. Like one of the things, my goals, one of my big goals, anytime I have a call with a prospect, is when we end that call, I want the next meeting set.
Yes.
I don't want to chase someone down. I don't want to do, hey, I'm just following up, but I don't like doing that. I know I can do it if I built the relationship right, because most people ghost us not because they don't know what to say or how to say, they're just busy. It just
Mm-hmm.
That's been my experience. And I found in person it's harder to do that. On Zoom, it's so natural. They've got their calendar up. They can look and say, "Oh yeah, it's this day." The person that I met with yesterday was like, "Well, send me some dates because I've just got a notebook here. I don't have my calendar." And I'm like, "Man, that sucks." Like
Yeah.
that, I'm thinking, but the in person is so good just to be in the same room with people. And I walked into the lobby yesterday and I saw someone else that I had a meeting with a year ago, and he's like, "Hey, we got to catch up," and he just got a promotion, and so that's another opportunity that's coming around. So that doesn't
Yeah,
happen in Zoom.
it's true.
But so it's both and it's good and bad. It's both are good and bad. I think have
Mm,
disadvantages. Training's always better in person. I'll argue
yeah.
that the till the day I die. Uh, the advantages for virtual training really are just monetary and convenience. Um, I find that unless you really, as the trainer, unless you're really super intentional of getting everyone involved, people are
Hmm.
really off doing five other things. So that's been my experience. So controversial subject, AI, is it going to revolutionize sales and is it going to replace me as a salesperson?
Mm. What I'm seeing are bits and pieces of the following. AI agents can replace some of the SDR, sales development rep role, or business development rep role, some of those elements. Even prior to that, I'm seeing AI agents serve as gatekeepers. Um, and the second thing is I'm seeing a positive is maximizing AI for coaching opportunities. And I use AI in almost every kind of communication from statements of work from condensing and summarizing my conversations, from articulating what are the top sales challenges based on this LinkedIn profile, based on the company website, based on this particular news article or this new um, regulation. So it is to maximize efficiency. It's gold. It's gold in that way. I still think salespeople, human beings, it also will depend on variables. What are you selling? What is that sales cycle? What does the selling motion consist of? I
Yeah.
choose to believe human beings will always be necessary because humans do buy from people they know, like, and trust. So,
Exactly. And I totally agree with you. And I think this term, I'm reading a book, I've got it here. I'm just starting it. It's called Snake Oil, AI Snake Oil. And it's
mm,
actually anti-AI. But what they talk about here is what do we mean when we say AI? It's one of
mm,
these all-encompassing terms that we use now that some of it's automation, and that can be good.
right.
And when we're trying to replace relationship building techniques with a robot, that's not going to work,
Mm-mm,
I
mm-hmm,
believe. And I love all the examples you use was taking predetermined content already, things that have been vetted, things that are true, and using AI to summarize, to pull out themes, to pull out talking points. I think that's all great. I think when you try to go out to the internet and find what are the top 5 challenges that this niche has, I think you set yourself up for some danger because, as
mm,
Mark Hunter says, AI really stands for average intelligence because it's pulling the average of everything that's on the internet. And there's just a lot
yes.
of stuff on the internet. And so we end up, when we're trying to use it to generate things, generative AI, especially with content. And I know salespeople can be lazy or not late, that salespeople want to maximize their time.
Right.
So when it comes to content, especially on LinkedIn, people are trying to use AI to just generate content and they don't realize that's not a time
Mm,
actually makes it longer because you
mm,
have to now fact check everything that's in that post and make sure it's real
yeah.
because AI doesn't know whether this is true or false.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where, so that was a great answer. I use AI a lot, especially in the podcast. I'm going to take the transcript of this call and I'm going to dump it into Gemini, and Gemini is going to give me the title and give me a 150 word description. And
Yep.
that saves me an hour at least, because I can be pretty picky when it comes to titles and stuff. And I
I
find,
love that.
yeah, it's not that important. So one of the things, just as we begin to wrap up, I love your trust acronym on your
Mm.
and so trends, report, unite, strategy, and tactics. So just tend to take the last couple of minutes to talk about that and how you use that in your coaching.
Mm. So for the clients that I serve, that is my process. That is how I pre-sales and then pre-sales engaging. And then as we kick off the engagement, it follows the trust process. And it's for that exact purpose. Each step is intentional to build and continue to engender trust with myself and the sales leaders and the stakeholders, and with myself and the sales reps that I'm coaching and training. And that's critically important. And I use the word trust all the time because I think it is foundational, especially when it is eroded or broken. And then I get to coach leaders into how to resuscitate it. But the trust acronym, it also is my framework. It keeps everyone on track and accountable. And it allows for me to get deeper insight into their sales organization. What's broken? What are in the gaps? Why are we talking? And what is the ideal desired outcome? All through the trust process.
I think that could be a whole episode in itself. I'll have to have you back and
Uh,
we'll have to go through those. I really enjoyed it. I read through it.
mm,
So listen, if you're listening to this, make sure you go check out Jen at her on her website. But let everybody know, how can we get more Jen Halpern in our lives?
oh, thank you for asking. So, LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn, Jen Halpern. That's number one. Number two, my website. I have a contact me form on my website. Number three is call it old school. Pick up the phone and call me or text me on my cell phone. I will always get back to you. I commit to always getting back. Response, response, response.
Fantastic. And we'll put all the links for those things in the show notes so you can get them. Jen
Love it.
Halpern, always great to see you. I went from a 9 to a 10 today just with this conversation. So
Love it. Thank you, Bill. Me too.
yeah, so thanks for thanks for having me on. I do a lot of podcasts too. Thanks for being on the podcast. And yeah, so thanks. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me on, Bill. Thank you. I enjoyed it.
And for those of you listening, thanks. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you supporting, clicking like, subscribing. And as you're out and about this week, don't forget to be social. We'll see you next time.
You got me loose, set me free. You make me win every way. You show me how to spread my wings.